Welcome back to Leck Tech, where technology is made easy. I'm your host, Leck. I'm eventually planning to do these videos by showing myself sometimes and a computer screen sometimes. Right now you see a computer screen all the time. It's easier to film videos on a regular basis with a dedicated area for the videos and expensive equipment. I don't have either an expensive camera or a dedicated area yet, but I am planning on buying an area to film and a professional video camera, buying a camera in the future. Someone who watches my channel pointed out there's a YouTube channel with a similar name to this channel. Leck Tech is this channel's name. I have been using the name Leck for 10 years, and I've been using a version of the name Leck for 20 years. Elect and Electorite were the names I chose for myself before the turn of the millennium. These names eventually morphed into Leck. Before I started this web series, I was applying for a lot of tech jobs. I thought the play on words Leck Tech was cool, so that's what I settled on for this channel. If there are any similarities, it is purely a coincidence. I searched YouTube, and at this time, I found only one channel name vaguely similar to Leck Tech. That channel is mostly about hardware, where this channel is mostly about software. On the topic of jobs, on my website I put together... I was going to show my channel. I do it every episode, so I'm sure people know. On the topic of jobs, on my website I put together a list of jobs you can get without going through a normal job interview process. The jobs on this page usually require a written or a physical test, but no job interview. It's for people who have difficulty getting jobs. And I highly suggest this. I'm just making a point of this because we don't sell anything in this video, in these episodes, and I think it's useful. This is mainly for people in America, though, too. You can do most of these jobs in addition to your normal job if you find yourself with extra time. Or if you don't have a paying job whatsoever, you can put a few of these jobs together, and you'll earn enough money to live on them. That's like what I do. I do 3 jobs on this page, paying jobs. So before I get into the content of this episode, I want to say everything I say or write on my website is assumed to be about the Windows operating system. And everything is assumed to be free unless otherwise noted. I generally don't go into detail about the other PC operating systems like Linux or Macintosh. And I generally don't go into detail about the mobile operating systems like Android and iOS. I plan to have separate videos on these operating systems, and I already have separate pages on my website if you want to know more about, like if you are Android crazy, you like Google's mobile operating system, I actually have a page for that. The majority of my videos and my website is about Windows, even though I think Linux is a better operating system. And don't forget, Windows is technically not free. Windows is not free. Linux is free. If you have a computer without an operating system, it's illegal to get Windows for free. You can't borrow somebody else's. You have to buy Windows. Linux should be much worse than Windows, but Linux is on par with Windows in quality, which is surprising because how much it costs to buy Windows. DOS comes with most computers even nowadays, but but on my Linux page I have an installable version of DOS. If you want to use just DOS as your operating system, the major downside with this is even if you're the best possible user of DOS, it's here somewhere. It's on this page, the Linux page. If you're you won't be able to view websites because DOS has no graphics. You have to add all this stuff to have DOS do graphics, so it's just not worth it. I mean, it's not like you can just add a package and it does graphics. You have to do quite a bit to get DOS to do any kind of graphics. Anyway, I highly suggest Linux over DOS, and this is the page about the best Linuxes, in my opinion. Now, a lot of Linux users will get offended, but there's a few anyway. So moving on. Now to the video editing part of this episode. Kdenlive is the last of the software I use to create these episodes. Oops, that's not it. But that's the next thing I'm going to talk about. I wanted to show software I used when I made these episodes so viewers could do what I did. I spent the last 2 episodes and this episode explaining how to do that. So I spent this is the last of 3 episodes on how to create these episodes. There are some websites I'm not going to show, but the relevant ones are in the description below each YouTube video. Everything I use to make these videos you can find in the description below. And in this episode, I explain them in the last 2 in this one. So if you want to do exactly what I do, you can do it. I'm adding all these this episode is only about Kdenlive and an introduction to the main video editing concepts with main video editing, right? Because you got to understand how Kdenlive really helps to understand how to the concepts behind video editing. If you just think, if you're an average computer user, use Kdenlive, it's going to be difficult. After explaining these main concepts, I want to show how to install Kdenlive and show how to render a video, because that might not be obvious. But I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with Kdenlive. It's more important to understand how to use it for this one. This is literally the best thing for people who are new to video editing in this episode. I think it's important. If you want to, I do go into more depth with Kdenlive on my video editing page, which is here. Video manipulate. It's a video editing page, basically. If you don't understand what's going on when you edit videos, it does make understanding Kdenlive difficult. You don't need to know all the concepts I'm going to go over to edit videos if you do FreeMake Video Converter. That's like that. It's like the amateur version of video editing. There's a lot of amateur versions. This is the best one, that's in my opinion. And Kdenlive's the best free full version. You can do everything with FreeMake. For example, FreeMake does it real quick, a few clicks. You can but it adds splash screens before and after the logo FreeMake, and then it adds more black around the video, so the videos are actually smaller than they need to be. You'll see videos on the sides and the top. You never need black on the sides and the top. You understand what I mean? Like when you make a video, it only needs to be one or the other, right? When you render a video and you're watching on your computer, you might have black bars, but you never need black bars on the top and the sides. You only need black bars on the sides or the top. Anyway, so FreeMake cannot do half of the things Kdenlive can. I find myself using FreeMake Video Converter for my personal videos because it's very quick. Okay. So onto the concept part. When you put a video together in software like Kdenlive, the things you need to think about are these: aspect ratio, resolution, frame rate, audio, and file formats. It's a little more complicated to put a video together with Kdenlive than just combining audio with audio in audio editing software like Audacity, like I did an episode or two ago. So the first of these are, I'm not going to spend a long time on these. The first of these is aspect ratio. This is the page if you want to see about aspect ratio, and these will be in the description below, so you don't have to key this in manually. You could just click on it under the YouTube video. I'm not getting into the information for this. I'm not getting the information I'm telling you from this webpage, from these web pages. The stuff I'm saying is not parroted from Wikipedia. It's not parroted from websites. It's from my personal, from my memory and my, my professional experience. So for example, this website doesn't have a 1-to-1 aspect ratio, but that's a very important one. You see? Okay, so aspect ratio is how long to how tall your video is, or horizontal to vertical. These are aspect ratios. Originally, the first aspect ratio widely used was 1:1. It was square, 1:1, right? Nobody really uses 1:1 anymore, so you don't have to create your video in 1:1. You shouldn't. Like, you get to choice how to render, what aspect ratio to render your video in Kdenlive, and if you understand these 5 concepts, it makes using Kdenlive a lot faster. It just, the reason I don't use it is because it does take a little longer. I mean, it takes like, yeah, it's a lot more clicks basically. Nobody, 4:3 aspect ratio was the one next chronologically. It allows you. I would. This means a factor of 4 across to a factor of 3 down. So that means if you have 800 pixels across. Here, I'll type this in. Show you. 800 pixels across. That means you have 600 down. It's the same ratio. It's like a fraction. So so moving on, the next is 16:9. That was the widescreen. They don't even have that here, I don't think. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So 16:9 was next, and it was originally named widescreen. So these started to have names starting with widescreen. The last one, which is widely used, is 2:1, but I forget the exact aspect ratio. It's like about 2:1. It's called the cinema ratio. It's about 2:1. It's close. It's like 21:23 or whatever it is. So you really only have those 3 choices. You shouldn't choose anything else. I don't know what options Kdenlive gives you, but you should only choose 4:3, 16:9, or the cinema one, whatever it is, like 2:1, whatever. It's close to 2:1. So our next term is resolution. And resolution means how many pixels are on the screen, maximum. So resolution essentially means how clear a video is. Resolution is measured one of 2 ways. 1, aspect ratio and pixels across. Or 2, maximum pixels. I'm not going to go into detail about these 2 measurements, or things like interlaced resolution, or things like whatever the automatic addition of pixels is called. But you should be able to learn about these things by clicking on links from this page. Wikipedia is great for learning about pretty much anything. Alright, moving on, frame rate. So my point was resolution is measured one of 2 ways. It's measured total, like in megapixels, or it's like aspect ratio, which is 1080p and then 16:9. That'll tell you. You can do the math. That's resolution. Okay. So frame rate is good. This one actually has the correct term in my opinion. The others were like weird terms. Frame rate, when I say resolution, anyway. So frame rate is how many frames you see on the screen, and it is measured by how many frames displayed in 1 second. This website gives a good explanation about frame rate, maybe because they got the title. The title is the one that everyone uses. Anyway, I'm trying not to cut down Wikipedia because it is a great site. But I want to give my professional explanation of frame rate. Alright, so anything under 5 FPS or frames per second is annoying and is going to make a viewer want to stop watching. A good frame rate is between 15 and 60 FPS. So between 15 and 60 is a good balance. Once you get over 60 FPS, any additional FPS is minimal, even though some people can notice the difference. Most people cannot notice the difference between 60 and anything above 60. Using frame rates over 60 FPS for your video, like when you choose how many frames your video is going to render in, like display in, it increases the amount of data it takes up, slows down the video if you don't have a super fast device or super fast streaming speed. And a lot of the like YouTube, it won't even stream above a certain FPS. I don't know what that is. So I wouldn't go over 60. 60 at the absolute most for For example, if you're unless you know exactly what devices are playing your video, so you want to keep it between 15 and 60 unless you're using like something you know is going to be playing on. For example, if you're making a Blu-ray video compact disc, you know computers and Blu-ray players are the only devices playing your video, so they should be able to handle 60 FPS. Computers and Blu-ray players generally can handle more, but I think Blu-ray is like 60 max. Don't quote me on that. You'll have to look up the Blu-ray, because I know with DVDs you can kind of get different frame rates, so Blu-rays maybe you can. That's not a great example because Blu-rays can't go over 60, but you get the idea. You want to keep between 15 and 60 anyway. So most people can tell the difference between 30 FPS and 60 FPS. But most people don't really care. I mean, okay, this looks better, but you still can enjoy the video if it's 30 FPS. Kdenlive allows 25 FPS minimum, and that's what I would stick with, because 25 is probably more than you would need, and it's a good balance of data to video quality. Actually, that's what I'm doing with my videos. I believe I'm doing mine in about 25. I think. I forget. I don't know if I'm recording in 25. Anyway, so my website shows how to create video DVDs and video Blu-rays in more detail from that link I showed before. Here. So last episode I did was about audio editing, which is our next turn. But I'm not gonna get into detail about that because I did already in a previous video. Most videos have audio also. Right. With Kdenlive, you can choose the audio format to go with your video format. Now, the only reason I'm mentioning this is because it did confuse me at first. I always thought videos had the audio somehow included in the code, but it's more like audio and video are separated in the video code. So basically, with Kdenlive, you can put an MP3 WAV or OGG, which are audio formats, with an AVI or MP4, which is video format. And this is important because it does confuse. It can be very confusing at first. So you can mix and match audio and video formats in Kdenlive. And what I keep saying is, oh, you saw it in this. Never mind. The spelling of Kdenlive. This, I kept thinking I clicked on something wrong when Kdenlive asked me to choose the video and audio formats, because that was like the first time I ever saw it. I'm not new to this stuff. That's why I'm doing these videos. Even though I'm not like the utmost authority, I believe I can help most people with the information. There's, I do want to make a point. There's a room where MP3 has an upper limit in quality. And my guess is probably because Apple limited the quality of MP3s in like iPods when they're out in the 2000s. And MP3s really have no upper limit in quality. Like the code, and in newer software and most software you use, it doesn't have an upper limit. There's no upper limit in MP3s. MP3 is simply another file format for audio. In my opinion, the best compression, and it's also the most popular because most devices play it. I always choose MP3 when I have the option for MP3. Most devices play MP3, with the exception of the traditional compact disc players. The traditional compact disc players are in an encoded format that need to be ripped. MP3s don't need to be ripped, unless it's like Apple, which encodes it a weird way. Anyway, the point I'm trying not to confuse the viewers. Some compact disc players are able to play MP3 compact discs. They aren't normal. They're also able to play the MP3 compact discs. Which, if that's not confusing enough. Again, I'm not going to explain this because it's really unnecessary to understand. I would choose MP3 when you get the option, if you have the option for that, because they're different. Anyway, all right. Let's. The last term is lossy versus lossless compression. Lossy and lossless are used in Kdenlive depending on the video file format you chose. Here's a page defining what lossy and lossless are. Basically, lossy means data can be lost, and lossless means data cannot be lost. And I think it's funny the Wikipedia page has a cat at the top, because there's a joke about how most of the data on our internet, we have, the joke how we have almost all the information at our fingertips when we're on the internet, and we use it two things, and one of them is like cats. Anyway, Lossy usually means less than 10% of the data is lost, and honestly, I've never seen a difference when using Lossy versus lossless conversion. Even though I think you can turn up the Lossy, how much it loses. That's what it loses data, but it's it's never really an issue. I don't think anything needs to be lossless. In most software, if you do choose lossless, it's 100 times the file size. So what I've noticed. So Lossy is just fine, and you should always go for Lossy if you have the option. I would argue the opposite for pictures and videos, though. You want to probably do lossless, and then, unless if it's like the final one, then you know how much data. Anyway, so this brings us to our final term: video file formats. Video file formats function very similarly to audio file formats. So for video, the formats AVI and MP4 are the preferred video file formats. Let me type that in. And they're usually followed by a period, which tells the computer to shell the program that opens them. Anyway. Here's the page explaining the video file formats. Also, FLV, I think it's FLV, is Flash, is a close third when choosing file formats. I believe YouTube accepts all three: AVI, MP4, and FLV. I prefer AVI because it's a higher. I think it's the highest compression of all the popular video file formats, and it doesn't lose any quality. Well, I don't think any of these do. If you do, anyway. So FLV doesn't play on half of devices, so that's why I suggest AVI when you're choosing a video file format. Now with Kdenlive, sometimes it doesn't work in some of the file formats, so you just choose another one until it works. I don't know why. Maybe anyway. So I find most non-professional video cameras, so the cheaper cameras, save videos as MP4. Like when you have a handheld video camera and you're taking a video, it'll save it as MP4, which is convenient, but I think AVI is better. So moving on to Kdenlive. Now we're finally on Kdenlive. I didn't get the website. Hold on, let me pull up the Kdenlive website. And I use Dogpile because it's a meta search engine. It actually does search Google, but it also searches all the others like Yahoo and whatever else. So I'm always searching Google when I use Dogpile. Anyway, so this is the Kdenlive website. And we're going to download and install Kdenlive. You choose Windows, you download, install it. Basically, after you download and install it, you have to make your own shortcut and run Kdenlive. It does not make it didn't used to make the shortcut. It might have changed because Kdenlive is in beta with Windows, so it might have updated. Anyway, so I'm going to show how to make the shortcut just in case it hasn't fixed that. It probably will fix it in the future. I pre-opened Kdenlive because it takes forever to open Kdenlive for some reason. So if you look in the settings and configure this is the first thing you do when you see this screen. This is Kdenlive. I already installed it. I already downloaded and installed it. And then you go configure Kdenlive in settings. And then you find the path where it's located. Here, environment. So you choose on any of these, and this is supposed to have 3 dots. You can't really even see it, but again, this is in beta. So you open any one of these. Here, yeah, this is Kdenlive, and we're in the root folder of Kdenlive. So it's whatever is after program files, and it takes us directly there. And then we find Kdenlive wherever that is, and you right-click on it and add a shortcut, and that's how you open it, or you open it directly from this folder. You save this folder. Here it is. That should do it. So then you create the shortcut. This is Windows 10, or you send it to desktop, create shortcut, and that's how you run Kdenlive. assuming they haven't fixed it. Eventually, they're going to put it in your start menu, but I don't think they even see. I'm checking again. I did this a year ago. I haven't updated it because you don't really need to update Kdenlive, but it doesn't even appear in here. So EFGHIJK. There's no Kdenlive, which should be here. So you have to make the shortcut yourself. You can't just run it from the installer like you can some. Anyway, so we did the shortcut. Assuming we did the shortcut, we have Kdenlive. And when you first start up Kdenlive, I believe I get the versions mixed up because I used the Linux version also. It started on Linux, and this is a port, but it works just fine mostly. You're presented with the screen the first time you start it's the first right after you install it and you turn it on. I mean, you start it up. You double click on Kdenlive and you get the screen that shows you where you choose like a default resolution, a default frame rate, and default audio. Now you can change these defaults later, but it helps to choose them correctly the first time. So like 4:3 or 16:9, and then 25 for FPS. You get right what we went over. Right. And these are default settings, not to be confused with the default settings developers chose, which are all these. I didn't really do anything. I don't change default settings with this, so this is pretty much a fresh install. I guess this is what I chose. I chose 1080p. And I'm doing it at 30 FPS, right? So the developer defaults for this software are notoriously not that good. So don't be afraid of changing to the default settings. The developers did a good thing, and they thought to add a first-time screen, which is what I was talking about. I don't know if you get it on Windows. I forget. Kdenlive realizes all users are different, so that was a very good thing they did. I wish other software did like the first time screen, because each person that uses the software is different. They should have like the most things people change, and they present anyway. So I'm just ranting. All right, so we add a clip. It's very similar to Blender. You add a clip. Add a clip here. Whatever it is. This is a video. I don't know. Let's do desktop. Let's do our web series. All right, I'm doing a new web series. I haven't uploaded the first episode, but this is what I'm doing. And let's do this. So we're uploading another episode here. I mean, this is a video I opened. And then assuming you did all this, you put the video here and you have the video. That's kind of what you do. Right. And then you go render. And that's how you edit it, but I'm not going to get into that now. And then you get all these. This is what I was talking about. Here are the video formats, and then under it, then you get the audio. Well, these are all video formats right now, and some of them are grayed out. This is what I was talking about. This is why I went over the important concepts, because this is confusing. And then here's the audio. Well, that's audio only. So, I mean, it takes some time to get used to, but it will do everything you want. And if this is too complicated for you, just use the free make. But you're going to get those splash screens. So once you say you save it, you finished, and once you want to play it, I would suggest VLC Media Player. It's the best video file, video DVD, and video Blu-ray player on a computer, in my opinion. So there are a few things you can do after you save your video. The first thing I'm doing is, if you want to play it directly from the same computer you created it on. Nice, the downloads are going up. See that? That's pretty cool. Okay. So Windows does not come with VLC Media Player installed by default. You have to download and install it separately. Most Linuxes do not come with VLC installed either. Here's the website to install VLC Media Player, and finally VLC added the 64-bit version, which they did not have for the longest time. You had to, and they actually had it, but you had to first of all, they didn't have it, and this is the 32-bit version, and then they had it, but it wasn't on their website easily, and now they have it. So they finally got there after 15 years of, and it just was in the last year they added this, I think. So it took a while. There are only a few videos I haven't been able to play with VLC Media Player, and instead of trying to mess with the libraries and install and make sure everything works, I just use Windows Media Player. Windows Media Player, the thing that comes with most Windows, or whatever comes with most Windows. Might not be called Windows Media Player, but like for everything from Windows Vista, Windows XP to like Windows 10, it's Windows Media Player. It's the default media player with Windows. It's rare a VLC can't play a video though. So another thing you can do when you finish rendering, which is saving your video from Kdenlive, you can upload your video to YouTube, which is what I do with these episodes. And then, and as I said, MP4, AVI, or Flash is, I know they work for YouTube. I don't know about the others. The last option I can think of is burning the video to a video DVD or a video Blu-ray. So you can watch in a DVD or Blu-ray player. You visit my website for more information how to do that on that video editing page on my website. So that's all for this episode. Thank you to everyone who subscribed, and tune in next episode.